When the people think of New York, they usually think of Manhattan. But Manhattan is not all of New York. It's only one of its areas now boroughs. There are Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. Manhattan is a place where you can see the most of the city's famous buildings and size. Queens is the largest area. The bridge from Manhattan to Queens goes across Roosevelt Island and smaller islands. The Bronx. For a long time, many people didn't want to visit the Bronx because they were afraid of crime. In the last few years, there has been less crime in this area. Statement Island visitors are often surprised to find lakes and green hills. Brooklyn, only three U.S. cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston, have a larger population than Brooklyn. There are three big airports close to the city. Newark Airport is in New Jersey, John F. Kennedy and LaGuardia airports are both in Queens. New York is a multicultural city. It's a mix of different persons of different continents. For this reason, you have, for example, the Little Italy, the Chinatown, the Harlem, El Barrio, and Soho. Everywhere you can find the persons of different colors, and there are a cultural mix, very interesting.
When we talk about New York, it's impossible to mention its skyscrapers. The Empire State is one of the most famous buildings in the city. It has 103 floors and 454 meters high. In this place, you can enjoy the views of the city and remember important movies like King Kong or Sleepless in Seattle. Other famous building is the Flatiron. When it was built, many people hated its unusual shape, like a front of a ship, but nowadays is one of their favorites. The Chrysler Building is considered the most beautiful in the city. The top of this building looks like a car wheel. We must not forget the World Trade Center, two buildings in the financial area of Manhattan, which were completely destroyed in September 11 attacks. This tragedy changed the world history.
There are many ways to travel in New York. For example, if you want ride fastest, you should take the subway. On the other hand, I don't recommend take a taxi because the traffic can be terrible. I think the best way to get it around is walking and ride bicycle. In this way, you can see parks and famous places in New York, like Central Park, Washington Square Park, Gramercy Park, and Coney Island. Places where you can get relaxed and enjoy the landscapes. New Yorkers have a lot of celebrations. They make the city wonderful. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated on March 17. The people wear green clothing and drink beer green. Also, wait for a New York in the Times Square is exciting. And finally, if you someday visit New York, you have to go an annual parade for see all the cultures about this place.
The last part of book talk about the cultural city. New York has been considered as a cradle of jazz. For example, in this big city, there is a special place, the Cotton Club. The Cotton Club is a club where only white people could come to the club to listen, and some artists like Charlie Parker sang in this famous club. This is more or less for 20s and 30 years. Another type of music, like rap music, it's typical of New York. Most people agree that rap music began on the streets of New York in the 17 years. The first rap group was the Sugar Hill Gang, and other groups, for example, Room DMC, LL Cool, and Chuck D. But New York is not only music capital. New York is too famous of television. because, for example, New York is the home of MTV, and two, it's the home of NBC, the famous channels around the world. And for example, New York has a lot of movies. For example, Spider-Man that was recorded in this city. Finally, to complete our description of book, the book said that New York is a home of it's too many sports teams. For example, the Jets, the Giants, New York Yankees, the Mets, and Knicks, because all of New Yorkers love sport. So for this reason, we can say that New York is not only an economical capital, it's a cultural capital, a sports capital, and in other words, it's a world capital of. It's a big apple.